We're officially live. Let me just make sure we're up and running. Gonna try Twitch and Kick tonight. Don't know if it's actually gonna work. It hasn't worked on Twitch the last couple times, but we're live on YouTube and Twitter/X for the most part. So welcome. This is episode number 5 now of GeoCreator. I've been doing this 5 weeks in a row, pretty consistently. Today's a little bit late. I usually do this on Tuesday. We're sort of doing it on Wednesday, but we're going to jump in and do an episode, and I'm just going to send out a couple quick notifications here as we get going, and then yeah, we're going to get this thing kicked off. So stand by for a second. Just got to send out a quick tweet and a quick post, and we are going to be good to go. All right. My video, that's going. So the least fun part of this whole thing is me figuring out how to get all these messages out when I go live. All right, here we go. All right. Okay. So let's get into it. This was last week. Played a full round of GeoCreator or GeoGuessr, and we landed on this location, which turned out to be Bellevue, Washington. So this was the reference image here that we landed on. And then this was the final render that I completed last week. So I would say pretty happy with this one overall. A few things that I would have liked to get right, like including kind of how the distortion up here works. For the actual road, some of the kind of rain or wetness at the top of that overpass, some of the little smudges and stuff on the camera. But for the most part, I was pretty happy with how this one turned out, and it was definitely a challenging one. When we landed on this, there's something like 6 overpasses, the roads, all that stuff. I knew it was going to be tricky. So that was last week. We'll see where we end up this week, and we'll start to 3D render one of these scenes. So if you're new, the way this works is we're going to do a single game of GeoCreator, or you call it GeoCreator, GeoGuessr. Standard map. I still haven't, got the guts to do a custom map because the locations can get like really goofy and weird. But I'm just going to do a random single game of GeoCreator or GeoGuessr anywhere in the world. I give myself points for how close I get to the actual location. Depending on how close I am, increases the probability that that location is going to get picked. We'll do a random wheel of names, which is got here. And at the end, whichever location wins, that's the one that I'll create. So I get one veto. If I don't like the location, I can veto it, but it just means it removes it from the wheel. And then whatever the next one lands on, that's the one I've got to do. If you're watching, you can help in the GeoGuessr portion of this, I guess. Usually I just am on my own, I'll guess it, but if I do see something in the chat that kind of leads me a certain way, I usually do allow that. And yeah, we'll go through the whole process, and we'll see how far we can go tonight. Maybe I can get this done. Otherwise, I'll probably split the stream and maybe finish the whole thing off tomorrow. Okay, so let's get into it. Episode 5. Let me flip this over to full screen, and we'll get rid of Blender. That should be Blender. Okay. So again, random game. I'll just do a classic map. I do the world location. For settings, if you ever want to give this a try, I do no move. So if you've never played GeoGuessr, it's going to drop us somewhere random. I can move the camera around, like I can look around the scene, but I can't actually move down the road. So wherever I land, that's where I have to guess, and that's also how I kind of pick the composition or where I create. We'll give ourselves exactly 2 minutes to guess, and we'll get going. So remember, closer I get, the more likely this location will be the winning one for tonight. So here we go. Let's kick it off. Okay. All right. So first of all, this kind of reminds me a little bit of the one I did in St. Petersburg. It's not very interesting. A lot of cars, a lot of detail, nothing really exciting going on. So this is not like my top choice. But I don't know, this building's kind of cool here with the two, you know, the different patterns. Anyway, I usually talk about how I would actually render it, but let's see if we can figure out where this is. JCP Industries. French? Is that French? I'm so bad at the languages. I think that's French. Radio. European cars for sure. European license plate. It's on the sign. Okay, so I'm right now we're guessing somewhere in France. Where in France? Not a clue. Okay, let's get the map out. Where would you be? Where would you be? Just like a boring, uninteresting part of France is my guess. I'm really annoyed if that's not French. so bad with the languages. I keep saying this every episode that I'm going to learn like just basics. Like, okay, what language is that? Oh, it says France right there. Shoot. Okay, we'll just go outside of Paris. Hey, not bad. I didn't see where that... I literally said France right on a sign. I must have missed it before. That's infuriating if you're watching and you're wondering why I couldn't figure that out. They're pretty close, though. Yeah, just outside of France. So 43 kilometers is really good. 4,800 points is very good. Unfortunately, that increases the chance of that actually being picked as the location. It's not like a really exciting location to make, but we'll see. So there you go, location 1. Let's go on to location number 2. Okay. Yep. Talk about boring. This is this is like small town Ontario, Canada. This could be outside of Barrie, Ontario. That's my guess. Just a empty road that I would see on every trip I would ever take in Ontario. Is exactly what it looks like. I don't think that we have mile markers like that though in Canada. Wait, let me see if it says miles. I mean, there's nothing. How else are you gonna know? So I don't feel like I see those very often. Everything about this to me would scream some random spot in Ontario, Canada. All right. The hay is a little bit. It's pretty flat, not a lot of force. Could be Saskatchewan too. Manitoba. I'm going to just kind of pick somewhere in Ontario because it'll kind of cover a big area out here. Maybe it'll be pretty close. See what happens. Yeah. I was kind of pretty close with the Winnipeg thing. I think once I sort of saw you see those all the time going through Winnipeg, just the barrels of hay on the side of the road. You don't see those in Ontario very often. So this makes a lot of sense. And I was right about the mile marker, and that I probably could have got a little more time. I probably would have came to that conclusion that it was probably somewhere in the Midwest in the US. That's not too bad. Not huge amount of points, but decent. Yeah, so that one's pretty good. All right, let's go on to number 3. Here we go. Okay. So this is a little more interesting. I'd be excited to do this. It's not the coolest thing in the world, but there's a lot of detail here that I haven't actually done in one of these 3D renders. Like these hills is really interesting to me. Composition wise, I could do something like this and then really work on this texturing, which is another really tough thing to do in 3D, get all that right. So it looks pretty good. You know, trees in the foreground, the background, there's a lot there. Could also zoom in and kind of do this road going down here. That way as well. Okay, so let's get this right. I'm going to say Escala Labastide. Almost would. I would almost guess France again. It's got like a rural UK. Like this, it could be UK, but I feel like those names are more French names. I think I'm just gonna say like. Yeah. I mean, it was close-ish, right? I was in France. Toulouse. Interesting. Okay, so that was 3,600 points, 475 kilometers away. So that's a pretty strong candidate for the random guess. So that's a pretty good point. So that's number 3? So let's do number 4. All right. Hey, Bullcut Bucko, thank you. I appreciate it. And Fantastico63, go fuck yourself. These Keck people with this spam is crazy. I can never figure out how to get rid of that. We'll get rid of that person. Okay. All right. Sorry for swearing. All right. Here we go. So this is episode 4. Okay. Now we're into something. Now we're into a challenge. This would be a huge pain to make, but would be very interesting. Bunch of mopeds, the roundabout can kind of depend if I want to do this castle's palace or not. Okay, we're gonna figure out where this is. I'm gonna say Thailand is my first guess. Right before I even looked at that. That also looks very Thai. Everything. I'm definitely going to say it was Thailand, Indonesia, somewhere in that part of the world. Ha! Kind of cheating, right? Okay, let's figure out how close we can get in Indonesia, because Indonesia is a tough one. Monument Pers Nasional. Republic Indonesia. So somewhere in probably, I mean, I don't know where that is, but I would assume some type of capital city or bigger city potentially. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to pick anything out of here that's going to give away the exact location. I don't know. I've never been to Indonesia, so I wouldn't even know. This one will be very interesting. It's funny because we know it's in Indonesia. I think you get points for that, but where it is in Indonesia, we think Jakarta. What's the capital of Indonesia? Is it Jakarta? I'm going Jakarta. Surakarta. Who would have guessed? Pretty good points though. 467, 3656. I mean, you're watching this game, you'd be like, this guy's like actually not terrible at GeoGuessr, which is not true. With that one, kind of gave it away. Anyone could get that. Okay, that's 4. So we have 4 so far. 4 candidates that all have points that would potentially get this going. Let me just get some music going on here. Live stream. I think this is just a random playlist. There we go. Okay. Number 5. Here we go. All right, 5th one. Let's guess. All right. This is not too bad. Split road. Could be kind of a cool scene with nice lighting, but I don't know, nice little spot here. All right, let's figure out where this is. So obviously right side of the road. I think these look like North American cars, like an Altima, Subaru. Yeah, very much North America. Pine something country club. So we're definitely in the US. Where are we in the US? Where would have those kind of trees? Weird gut instinct I'm getting, which I don't think is right, is like northern Georgia. I don't know why. I don't know why. No idea. There's just a lot of golf in this part of the world. Okay, I'm going, we're going to go northern Georgia. We're going to go Greenville. Long Island. Ah, we got the country right. I think we got all the countries right. I think I got every country right. Who would have guessed? I mean, I don't know. I guess probably the climate was messed up there, but okay, so let's take a look at the results. Pretty good game, 1,600 of 2,500 points. Here's the breakdown. So on the left-hand side, you can see points. So 4,800, 1,700, 3,600, 3,600, 2,500. So it's pretty, it's pretty even. Let me just go through them each quickly, and I'll make my comments on whether I want to actually do this one as a render, and then we'll do the wheel. And then, if you're in the chat, I always ask if people, want to contribute, if they want to say whether I should do it or not, you can go ahead, but it's all good either way. Okay. So number one, just as a reminder, this was this kind of weird little building here, which turned out to be in France. So we'll say for this one, 4860. So I'm just going to do the wheel as we go here. So let me just go back here, and we need to duplicate and duplicate. Okay, so number one is, I think this was outside of Paris, was it not? Yeah, so we'll say this one is Paris. And we're gonna say for points for this one. So again, the way it works, 4,860 points. So 4860. So this just does the probability. You'll see this kind of at the end here. So second one, number two, was 1,700 points. I didn't get the country right on this one. I was wrong. I guess Canada and the United States. So this is North Dakota. Pretty basic one. I would say of all of them, this is the least, there's just the least on this one, but yeah, that is what it is. So we'll say number two is North Dakota. And the points was 1,706. So number two is North Dakota. And would I say 1726? Was that what it was? 1726, 1706. Okay. And then we'll do number three. Okay, so number three was, this one was also in France. I don't know where you would say this was, though, exactly. I guess we'll say, it's close to Toulouse, so we'll say. You know what? Let's just say France, because it's not really Toulouse. Or how do you, I don't know. Maybe I didn't say that right. Télissé? Whatever. Okay, Télissé, France. We'll say France, 3637. Okay, so number three is France. 3637. I always get those wrong. 3637. Okay, cool. All right, so number four was Indonesia. That's this one here. So we'll just say Indonesia for this one. So this one will be probably the most challenging one, but it'll be fairly interesting. Okay, so we'll say number 4 is Indonesia, and the points on number 4 were 36.56. 36.56. And then last up, number 5. Number 5 was New York. Long Island, actually. So we'll say Long Island was 25.13. Long Island, 25.13. Okay, so just to go over the probabilities, just, after it's done. So 29% for the first one, 10% for second, 22% for third, 22% for 4, and 15% for 5. So that's just reflective of how many points that I scored on each of these. Okay, so that is it. The wheel is ready. They are very close. Let's just kind of change the colors. So Paris, North Dakota, we'll say France, we'll say red. Okay, so we got our colors ready to go. Okay, so again, reminder here, I'm going to spin this wheel once. I get 1 veto. So if it lands on the first one, I can veto it. It comes off the wheel. But that means that whatever the next one lands on, I don't have a choice. So bit of a risk if there's one left on the board that I don't want to do, and I respin it and I hit that one. So we're going to see where it lands. I'll take a look at the locations, talk about what the options are for rendering it, and then we'll pick. So without further ado, the wheel spin for episode 5. Fuck. Okay. Let's talk about it. So I think that, this one would be, it's not that interesting, but it would be fairly reasonable. This is just boring. This one was, where's the first one? The first one was kind of just, it was all, this is definitely the best one of them all. Like, this is not that, that's not that interesting. This is the best one. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to take the wheel. I'm stressed about it. But I'm going to do it. Okay, so we'll pick Indonesia. So this will be interesting. And what we basically going to do is I'm just going to get the composition right, take the screenshot, and then I usually take a quick 5-minute break to organize myself, come back, and I start. So the idea is here, I can't move in this scene. So I have to pick a composition from this scene that I think is the best, so basically the best photo. I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can go any location, but I can't move the camera. So let's kind of talk through the options, right? So option 1 would be kind of like, just focus in on a cool little composition of this guy on the bike or this couple on the bike. So we would focus on these 2 people. We would have to do this cart in the background, some signage, the billboard, wires across, and just a bunch of, trees here, sidewalks. There's a lot to do. Could be end up being a cool little photo if we do the moped and, the people on it, but there's just a lot of detail there for sure. So I would say this is kind of option 1. Looking around the scene, I don't think it's a good option, but this is kind of interesting, kind of this battered down sidewalk area, the bike in the background, the little house, this tree. This is kind of a interesting, just kind of composition with, especially all these wires just taken off in every direction. Not the best, but, is worth kind of talking through. Nothing down here looks interesting to me. Car straight on, boring street, nothing that cool. Nothing here really. Maybe interesting building, but I don't think that's worth looking at. Okay, and then here's sort of the most obvious location. I think this is, it's probably going to be that. I didn't mean to do that. I mean, to me, this is probably the best. This is probably the shot. So I think what I would end up doing here, just for simplicity, is I'd probably frame it like that. I kind of like this. I kind of like this. You know, I like the sign pointing down. You know, we'll get that sign right. This is a cool little area that we have to sort of compose properly or render properly, model properly, because there's a lot of detail here, a lot of dirt textures around this, which is always challenging, road signage. And then we get this big thing in the middle. We've got to model out this structure because we're going to just have to do that. The plants and stuff, the little rope, this big tree in the background, a bunch of these trees in the background. And then kind of the way we'll look at this is we'll end up, you know, we won't do any detail probably on these buildings back here. So we'll just get the buildings in, you know, maybe use image planes or something very simple so that, you know, you can't really see them in the background. But we'll focus on, I would say this, the road, the trees, telephone wires. This road is blocked, thankfully. We can do a few of the background vehicles in here. I think that's it. That's way more interesting than that, for sure. Okay, let's make a call. I think we're going to go this, and I'm not going to zoom it I'm not going to zoom it out to the point where I can see that building, because otherwise, you know, then I got to get into building this full building out, and that's going to be annoying. Okay, so this is our composition right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this the way I want it. I would say something like this. Let me get my screenshot. And then I'll bring that into here. And then I always do this normally with these, and I'll just do this to check. I like to stick to the one that was actually picked. But I am going to just get this, you know, get this one locked in just to take a peek at what there is. So there's always other dates, depending on where we are. So we're actually in August of 2019. That's the randomness of this. I just put us there. But just to see what other scenes are here, because if I get a very similar composition with a different date that looks better, we can switch. So August 2019. Here's August 2024. So you can see that the actual location shifted. It really should be here. It's kind of fun to see how this looks. They didn't get the exact spot. Cool that this is very different. Must be a different time, November, like a rainy season or something here. Very similar though, you know, just this plant thing is a little bit different, but it's not the exact spot. So I wouldn't pick that one. Again, back to August 2019, it's there. So that was November, August. It looks like they just, planted. Okay, so here's January. Oh, this is interesting. What is the sign? It's like very ominous. Huh. I'd like to know what those flags. That's a badass. What is that? I need a reverse image search on that. Like, what is that? Political party on election carnival, Kirab Hermelu party. So an election, I guess a political party in Indonesia. Man, what a badass flag. I hope I mean, it's like the Communist Party or something. I hope it's not evil. That is, I mean, I hope that's not evil. I hope they're not evil, but that is a badass political flag. Like, look at that flag. PDI Perjuan. We might have to include this flag. Okay. Democratic Party of Struggle. That's good. Democratic Party. Let's read about them quick. This is where I go off on a tangent. Center-left secular national political party in Indonesia. I mean, look at that logo. How come I don't know about this? Can you imagine if like a political party in Canada or the US had that logo? It's just landslide. Win for sure. All right, this is my inspiration. I'm saving this image. I'm using this 100% somewhere in this render. It is awesome. Okay, this makes me happy. All right, so that's going in somewhere. I don't think we'll do this render with these flags all over. This is not the best photo. It's not lined up the same way, so we won't use this, but I definitely think we're going to drop a couple of these flags in the background. And then here's one from 2017. So same thing, not quite centered the same way. Yeah, let's go to the one that we actually landed on, which is this one here. I think this is and ends up being the best composition anyway. Number 4. There it is there. Okay, so we're locked in on the location. We'll close the rest of these out. Close the wheel of names. Indonesia is the location. Close all that. And then I'm going to bring Blender back. And we're going to move to the small one. There we go. Okay, so there's the location. There's our mascot. I love this. I love this political party logo. It's unbelievable. Okay, so I'm going with that. That's going to be our inspiration. I take like a real quick 5-minute break here just to get like my scene organized, my Blender file, so you don't have to watch that. And then I'll be right back, and we're going to just dive in and get the data for this thing. And we're going to start modeling out, where are we? Surakarta, Central Java, Indonesia. All right, be back in 5. Okay, we're back. Welcome to the PDI Peru Juan Gon Political Party distribution channel. No, okay, we're actually gonna make this. I'm obsessed with this logo. You have no idea. This is gonna ruin my day. Okay, what do we actually want here? Excuse me, we want this screenshot. Okay, so let's get into this. Here's the boring part. GeoGuessr, GeoCreator, episode 05. Location is... I just got to pull in a little bit of information here on this. So Surakarta, location is Surakarta, Central Java. Google Maps is that. So I have that exact location. We'll just grab another page. Okay, so our lat long is this. So lat long is that. So this is our location. And then I just usually do a quick checklist of what I need to do, for these things so I can stay organized. So let me just sort of walk through this. So we're going to get the satellite image. We're going to get terrain, sat, and street map. So we're just going to get the actual satellite imagery and the terrain data for this location in Indonesia. So we kind of have the layout. Then the main thing here is going to be the street data. So get street data. Then we're going to get in the building data. So the building data is really, I think we really need probably 1-2 buildings I kind of see in the background, just we have them positioned. We're not going to do really any modeling detail at all on the buildings, but we'll get the building data. And then I think from here, my guess is the street data is not going to have this roundabout. It might, I'm not sure, but whatever, either way, we'll have the main location of the street. So we're going to just sort of adjust and set up composition for... Okay, so we'll just set up the composition for the camera first, then we're going to create the roundabout cutout, and then add, we'll add, what do we call that thing? Add median to foreground. So, basically that's just sort of, we're going to do let me bring this up, right? So we'll get the street data in, and then, we've got a building here, a building here. We're going to model this using the main data. This is the actual roundabout. We'll get that in with the street data, and then we'll do this one. And then we're going to model this guy right here. So we're going to model the, what do we call that? Statue art thing. That's it. We're going to model that because we won't find that anywhere with data, I don't think. But we'll try to find out what it is, and then we'll at least have try to get some reference images of that thing, and I'll model that out. And then I think we should probably placeholders for all plants. So that plants and trees. So we'll just do, some assets for that tree, that tree, that tree, that tree. Some background trees back here. We'll do all these plants. We'll sort of just bring those in as placeholders, so they're not the actual full-blown trees, because those are heavy on the scene. And then we'll bring in the vehicles. So we'll get vehicles to the scene. I forgot one up here. Add HDRI lighting. So if you've watched this stream before, lighting on Google Street View is always it's either cloudy or sunny. It's usually never raining. Last week, for whatever reason that was, it's very rare. But we'll basically get this sky in here so that we've got something that will light this scene. Everything's again very flat. You can see the shadows are, you know, barely coming off to the side, but the light is essentially here coming down into the scene. So you got a little bit of shadows. If anything, it's sort of slightly forward of this location. So you can see that that shadow here is really the reference that we're going to use to get the lighting right. But it's really simple. It's not going to be anything complicated with the lighting. And then I think after we did that, we do the vehicles. So now we have vehicles, and then I think we should have everything in the scene. I would say, I mean, depends how far you zoom in, right? Knowing part's going to be putting people on all these vehicles, but I should be able to get some type of model for that. I would like to not have to do this. This has got me a little bit annoyed. Like, you know, if you start getting into details back here that you can barely see, it's hard. And I don't like to put like an image plane in, but I got to just kind of find a way to reduce this. I don't know what it's going to be, but I don't want to have to get in and like doing all these little, you know, like there's people back here. There's all sorts of stuff that I'd like to avoid, but we'll deal with the background stuff at the end. Deal with background objects. Then we're going to get road textures, all the grass textures, convert the trees. We're going to add people to vehicles. That's actually up here. We're going to do that at the same time. And then, oh, and we need to also add telephone poles. So that's just a matter of really this scene. The nice thing is it's just this. You know, we just have this one telephone pole right here we've got to deal with. And then we just got a bunch of wires. And that's really, there's nothing else. It's just a bunch of wires going behind the camera. All these wires here. And then also I need to do add signage. And then in the last thing, if I have time, we're going to do the add the political party sign. I just want to put it like up here. I can't quite tell what's up there. I feel like that's going to be the political party. I got to make sure this political party didn't, you know, no atrocities, no massacres. We don't want to be promoting a evil political party, but yeah, this would be it. Okay. All right, let's hit it. So I'm just going to just saving out my file. You won't be able to see this. 05. Surakarta, Indonesia. Surakarta, Indonesia. Okay. All right, let's go. All right. Okay, so first things first, we're going to get the, I just need to sort of get myself a text file here. So give me a second, text file. Okay, so we're going to go out and get all of the nerdy GIS data to start. So, okay, so up in the top left, you can kind of see what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to drop in the location. So I just took the lat long from Google Maps and I just dropped it in this tool. And this is based on OpenStreetMap. So this is kind of interesting. We might actually have some good data here. So you can see that it's the Monument Pierres National. So we can do some research and get that. We don't need much data here because what we're looking at is essentially, hang tight. Wrong one. So we're really, there's not much here. Like you can't see deep into the foreground or the background. You know, we don't need anything going off into the distance like the last scene that we had with the cars. You know, we had to go way back here. Like this is, you know, probably 2 or 3 kilometers back to get that detail in and get all like the roads that are here. With this one, we need practically nothing because you can't really see back here. So we got to figure out where we are first of all. So let's just double check that. So if I zoom out, you can get a feel for where, actually the better way to do this, my mistake, is the better way to do this. I learned my lesson on this one last time. I spent the first 30 minutes of the stream thinking that this was in a different spot. Okay, so you can actually see it down here, right? So if you zoom in, you can see here's exactly where we are. We're on the left side of the road, right at that intersection. It's obvious. And there's the National Monument. So if we go here, we are right here. So that's definitely good to have. And then all I really need here is a very small area. So I'm just gonna go in something like that. And I'm just gonna center, I'm gonna just center everything kind of right on our location. Okay, so it's only 0.2 kilometers by 0.2 kilometers, which is great. Small little area to deal with. Okay, so let's grab that, and then we're gonna paste this in, and we're gonna start with the terrain data. So we're gonna import the terrain data. Actually, we made a vital mistake. We're gonna get rid of the default cube and all this. Okay, so here's our terrain. So just to get an idea, like it's very flat, but there is a bit of an elevation happening in one of the corners. I think that would be up here. Yeah, in this resort here is up on a bit of a hill, but it's very simple. So the next thing I'm gonna do is get image overlays. So this is where I have to just cut the stream, not the full stream, just cut the Blender part for a second because it's gonna show my API key, and I'm trying to keep that private so you guys don't steal it. Okay, here we go. I will show you what happens at the end, I promise. Oh, it's gonna be very quick. So right now I'm going out to something called Mapbox, which is a satellite image provider. And I am basically getting image overlays for this specific location. And they're gonna be done very quick. I'm gonna do one more. Actually, I'm gonna do a bunch of these just because it'll be very fast. I'm actually gonna do some Google 3D tiles just so you can see what that looks like. It's kind of cool. Okay, I can bring this back. It's gonna do that in the background. Okay, there you go. So everything's done. So just to kind of show you what data you get when you bring this in. Not sure why this comes in up top here like this, but yeah, so there's not much here. This is the Google 3D tiles. If this was a big city, we would actually get buildings. But as you can see, like it's just basically a satellite image with a little bit of depth. Pretty much useless. Just kind of was curious what we might get out of this. But let's get rid of that because we're not going to use it. Okay, so here's the actual data that I downloaded. This is the image overlays. So you can see this pretty much matches what I have over here on the right. Our camera being right here, you know, we've got the monument, we've got the map, and then the cool part is we'll just rename this open OSM streets. And then if I just select this guy and assign it this one, now you can see this one's the satellite imagery. It's not very detailed, but but that's the satellite imagery. So it kind of helps us with, you know, where the exact location of this thing is, where the exact locations the roads are, the trees. This is a good asset to be able to use to line everything up. And then the last one is just another street. So I think this is Mapbox Street. So I'm just going to cut this for a second because I'm going to see if there's any better satellite imagery. So when I select my images, I can get, there's a lot of different options, but I'm going to get ArcGIS and just see if we get any higher quality satellite imagery. Things like Indonesia, it's hard to get good satellite data, but let's see if this is any better. Okay, so we're back. So I'm going to say it's not going to be. It is a little better, I think. What's better? Yeah, it's definitely better, this one. Okay, so we'll use this one as the reference. So get rid of this guy. Okay. All right, so we've got satellite imagery. Next thing for us to get is buildings and the roads. So we'll start with the roads. We're gonna just get basic road data. And this should be pretty quick. Okay, so there you go. So this is helpful. It's actually pretty good. You know, it's got the little break point here. It's not exactly lined up with the satellite, but it's pretty good. So there's the actual street data, which will be useful. So we've got that brought in, some back roads that we won't use. And then now let's grab the building data. And I think we can start with, what do I want here? I want the buildings. Let's just get we're gonna get the flat building first. Okay, so there it is. So you can see now we have building data, and this always is with satellite imagery. I would say the street data is more accurate usually, but like a satellite, there's a bunch of issues. Satellite is sort of off. It's offset. It's not completely accurate, but you know, whatever, we can adjust. So there's the buildings. Now, just for this one, because we know we're going to use these in the background, I will bring in 3D simple buildings. So I'll show you what that looks like. Import. See, all that does is just brings in the shape of the buildings, which actually, for this building over here, pretty cool looking building, but gives you kind of a little bit something to work with. And then just while we're here, well, I'll bring in the 3D realistic. These are not going to use these, but it'll attempt to kind of add a bit of detail to the building, but it ends up not looking super great. There you go, right? Actually, it might be useful enough just for, you know, lining the composition and stuff, but you got something at least to work with. Okay. All right, so data's imported. I'm just gonna rename this stuff. So OSM, detailed building, OSM, simple building, OSM, flat building. And then we take the away profiles. We're just gonna create a new folder. I'm gonna call this archive. And then I just bring in the terrain envelope and the wave profiles. It's just a technical thing, but you don't need it. Close this, keep the buildings there. Bring all these into, I apologize, like this is always not super exciting, obviously, to watch this part, but if I don't do it, this project just gets out of hand super quick. So, okay, so then this is roads, flat. Well, this actually is just as fun. It says roads, 3D tiles can go, this can go, terrain. Put this in the thing. Okay. All right. We're laughing. Roads, terrain, archive. All right, cool. Okay, so now next up is let's get the composition right. So what we can kind of do here is just go down to ground level and just move our camera kind of up to something that we think is reasonably close. And then we'll go camera, we'll add a camera, and then we'll go view, align view, active camera to view. So basically we just created a camera right here, and camera roads, there it is. Yeah, so we basically created a camera right here in this location. And now that we can kind of just manipulate this to get it as close as we can to what we want. So let me flip back to the preview, and then I'm going to bring this one to the actual view. Sorry, 3D viewport. Okay, so all right, so the rendered views on the left is going to be kind of what this actually ends up being. So you can kind of see it, and then this one I'm going to kind of manipulate the camera. So we know the camera is, for the most part. So it's really right at that junction where these roads come together. So if you hide the roads and kind of look at the satellite view and you want to trust that, I would say the camera is probably right there. I mean, it's definitely behind this thing, so maybe it's more like that. Yeah, because you kind of, if this is the okay, so this is that. Yeah, this here is that line, so it's probably somewhere like kind of back here. Okay, so see where our camera is. We want to bring that camera closer, and then if I just zoom that out, you can kind of see the field of view, and then we're going to go into the camera. We're going to bring that field of view out. So typically I've noticed that street view is somewhere around like the 16 to 14 range. So you just kind of have to guess here. It's going to not be an exact science right off the bat, but you have to just ignore the satellite imagery for the most part, because obviously once we add depth to this, it's gonna be very different. But things we're kind of looking for here is just generally like, is this road feel like it's in the right spot? So if I bring the roads back in, you know, does it feel like it's going off in the correct direction compared to this reference here that we're looking at? So put that back. Can we imagine, you know, if we fix this road and make this road bigger, can we kind of imagine the spot here? Does this building cut off? Because building data is usually pretty accurate. You know, does this building cut off roughly where we think that building would be? Does this one cut off, you know, in the background? I would say we're pretty close right here. And then what I usually do is I kind of look at the height, and this is always somewhat tricky because it always feels like, you know, a street view camera's on top of a car, which is like, say, 2 meters high. But for whatever reason in here, I find that if I bring the camera down to what I would, if I measured out 2 meters, it always just feels too low. So I'm going to try it and see. It's hard to measure this, but I would say that's probably, yeah, so these measurements never quite line up the way that I want them to. Yeah, that's pretty close, right? About 2 meters. If you kind of drop a car in there, you can see it. You know what? Even we can just do it for reference, right? So if I went into, you know, the asset here, and I'll just grab a car. So I've just got a bunch of car assets here. So we should hopefully have a good motorcycle for this one. You know, so like a typical street view car, it's probably just going to be like, you know, a normal, like this is like a Hyundai, whatever, right? So you kind of imagine there's the Hyundai at ground level. So you can imagine the camera being ignore this part because that's not really the ground. So there's the car is basically just, yeah, it's just above, right? So there's our camera, and you can kind of imagine our camera sitting on top of that car. It's a little high. You know, what we'll do this time is I'll just sort of set it to what I really think the camera would be, right? There's actually what I would say the camera would be on that car. So why don't we set it to that and then see if the composition ends up working out. So there we go. We'll put that car in there. I'll hide it because it'll start to start to cause issues with the scene, but there we go. Okay. All right, so I'd say we've got our composition right. So we got our data, we got our street data, we got our building data, we've got our composition. Okay, so let's add some lighting now to the background. So our lighting is basically just a really midday, like partly cloudy day, real simple. So unfortunately you won't be able to see this, what I'm looking at, but I'm just looking around my asset library for sky textures. And I'll import a couple options here, and then we'll see if any of them match the scene. I'm looking for anything that says there you go. Kind of nailed it on the first one, eh? It's pretty good. It's actually pretty good. I don't even know if I should mess around with this. So you have to really look at where the shadow is here is the only issue. So let's actually line that up. So what we can just do is we'll just make a little reference here. Okay. All right, so just to make it somewhat accurate. Right, so what we're just looking at is where the shadow is. So I mentioned that before, that the shadow should be kind of above our right shoulder. And we can, we can manipulate this a little bit with the light texture if we need to, but ideally what I want is the light to be perfect to start, and then I can adjust the sky texture after. Like some people will notice it and they'll be able to figure out like, hey, that the light is not perfectly aligned with where. So like I'd say the light's there. So you can see the shadow is kind of perfectly aligned with where the shadow is on this thing, right? It's kind of coming off to the left. There's no shadow on the right. There's definitely a shadow on this side. There's probably no shadow on that side. We can always look around the scene if we want for other reference. See the shadows going off that way, the shadows going off that way. Almost no shadow in front. There's another good reference. So almost directly overhead. And then if you look up, it's always hard to see with this, but maybe it's right there. That would be the sun. So it's pretty much straight on. So if we kind of look at this now, I would say it's even further forward. So I'd say it's probably more like this. I'd say that's probably pretty good. And then again, with HDRI lighting, because we're lighting the scene with an actual 360 image. So if you kind of compare these two, cloudiness of the day is pretty good. But if you kind of bring ourselves down to where we are on street level, right? We're sitting down here and we're looking around that scene the same way. There's where our sun is. There's where our sun is. Pretty close. Pretty close. Yeah, I would say I'm not going to mess around with that. I'd say I'm pretty happy with how that looks overall. It's not perfect, but they say in Indonesia, same. Maybe that's Thailand. It's a little bit. Just looking at it now, it's it's probably a little bit. It's probably a little bit this way. A little bit more straight up in the sky. Yeah, that's probably a little bit better. Something like that. Okay, so the clouds don't match exactly, but we can very easily fix that. So we can even just do it now for our own sanity. So what we're doing is we're adding a mix shader. So what that's doing is combining this light, which is all set up here. This is basically our background texture. We're going to combine that one with the exact same thing. Okay, so we're just copying the whole thing up. We're going to flip these around. And then we're adding a light path, which basically says if we're looking at what if we show what's on camera as the top one and use the bottom one for lighting. I know that's confusing, but that's basically what it is. So now what happens is if I rotate this one, oh, that's the light. So it's the opposite. Let me flip that around. Right. So see, now I can move the lighting independently and it's not actually affecting the lighting of the scene. And since we can't actually see the sun, I feel like this is probably going to be okay. So remember when we first opened this up, we were like, hey, this is pretty close. Just maybe something like that. Can't really see what's behind the trees, but that little lighting pattern up here is pretty good. All right. Okay, it's done. HDR lighting. Okay, so let's get this road system set up the way we want it. So the best way to do this, we're going to hide the camera because it's just going to be in the way. We're going to just put this cube down here for reference. So the best thing here is, assuming this road is fine, I think is probably going to be to expand the size of this little internal street. And then we'll use the satellite. I think I can't decide whether we're just going to use the inside of this or not. You know what? Let's just try it with the inside of this. So basically all we're going to do here is we're just going to add a circle. Okay, so we're going to expand it, bring it up. Just going to kind of like align it with the inside of this. Okay. And then, you know, slope-wise, we have to kind of trust the terrain here because it is accurate. Even though this looks very flat, but we're gonna see, like if I get rid of the roads, yeah, so maybe we're gonna have to flatten that out a bit. But the best way to do it is just keep this like going down into the ground a little bit and then flatten out the terrain with the road. It's quite a bit different. And it's always hard to know with these things, like from a construction standpoint, like would they make this exactly, is this exactly flat? Like, is this a complete flat? You know, in the 3D tools, this has no rotation. It is perfectly flat on the ground plane, like parallel. In Indonesia, do they get it flat perfectly, or is it tilted? You know, does the camera show that it's tilted? Obviously the terrain here is on a slope. So you can kind of see how the terrain is fairly sloped, but the quality of this is not always the best. So if there's a bit of a slopes going up on the side, it doesn't particularly get it perfect. So I think what we'll end up doing is probably flattening out the terrain a little bit, kind of in the middle of this road. And then this will end up not looking like it's like high on one side and low on the other. So we'll sort of assume it to be, exactly flat. And then what we want to do here is we're going to basically fill this. Don't know if I should grid fill it. I need to get, hold on a second. Nah, we'll just fill it. Okay, so then what we do is we'll inset this. So that'll create like a bit of thickness. And then we'll extrude this down. And then this is where we'll place all the grass and the bushes, right? So there we go. Okay. So I think that's fine. I'd say that's pretty, decent. We can shade that smooth. And now we've got the outline of this part. We're going to do this internal thing in a second. All right, so let's do this guy here now. So let me think how I want to do this. I think we're gonna probably just do it. We could do it this way. So again, getting this exactly right is it's kind of tough because again, if you look at the satellite imagery, if we're going off the satellite imagery, then this whole thing is a lot smaller. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring a vehicle in. I'm going to bring in like a random, well, let's get our existing vehicle and see how close this vehicle lines up with the size of this. So it's pretty good. So it just means like you can kind of trust the scale a bit better. So, if you imagine that's a car, could be a truck, but it's both the same size of this vehicle, give or take. So you can kind of trust this a bit better. Even though it's incredibly blurry and it's hard to see, like, did this may be an old image where, they didn't fully have this built up. It's kind of hard to know, but if we bring in our circle, I think we could probably trust that it's a little bit too big for that scene. So we'll bring it down to that. And then, you can kind of trust this a little bit better in terms of where it is. It's definitely not this high off the ground. It's probably something like that. I'm just going to kill these ones. We'll obviously fix this a bit more, but I'm just trying to get this right from composition. So we would feel a little far away now. Even, composition wise, it's not nearly as big as it needs to be. So now we got to go back to the camera. And now we got to bring our camera and our camera car, which for now, I'm just going to move right to the dead center. We're going to actually take this car. We can't do it. Okay, so let's take them together. And we're going to kind of imagine that the car was like here. Not that close. Here. Again, see, this is where I was kind of mentioning before that even though the street view camera, like it feels right, it always feels like it should be higher than it is. Because if you're kind of looking at the gap between here and here, that would represent that the camera is higher, right? So if you kind of take the car and you bring it, you can't be too close because you got to be able to see everything. But if you bring the car up you can see over that and actually see part of the road. So it's sort of, yeah. Okay, let's just get it close. I'd say probably something like that's fine. And then again, this definitely, from our scene, I think the satellite imagery may have been old. So I almost think we want to go back to what we were at before. Something like that feels much better to me. Maybe we adjust this back. We'll dial that in to get that, pretty close. Again, you kind of have to either rely on the satellite view or either rely on the kind of the satellite view or the actual street data. Okay, so for this thing, let me think about this. How do I want to do it? I think we're going to just apply a subsurface to this thing and do it that way. So if you've never seen subsurface modeling, it looks something like this. It's going to look a little goofy at first. But what that does is it adds like a smoothness around everything. And now we kind of get the shape of this right. Sort of an eyeball situation on this thing. Okay, so can't be too crazy with this because when we adjust the ground, it's going to be slightly different, but kind of get an edge there. And then you can see it kind of curves in. And then, if we grab this is kind of a goofy way to do it, to be really honest. was kind of dumb. To be perfectly honest, this was not what I wanted to do. I don't know why I did it this way. Let's try this again. Okay. A little bit better. Okay, this is going to be probably good enough for now. I'm going to add detail to this after, but the basic shape is there. It's not like we can change the height. You got to be careful with this because you get too far into this and then the camera adjusts, or you know, we go into the camera and we fix, for example, like the lens shift, right? That can cause, you know, things to look a lot bigger or smaller, just something like that, which is something like 100% I find in these scenes is always off. The lens shift is always a little bit wonky, so we can just use auto for now, but I think that's pretty close, and I think that's pretty close. Okay, so we're gonna call that done. We're gonna do the medium is done. Okay, let's do the statue. So let's do a little tour. So first of all, let's find out what this statue is. So what we're gonna do is gonna go to actual OSM. OSM is OpenStreetMaps. Oh, Hassan, sorry, I didn't see you. Hassan, official shout out. I didn't realize that you were there. I always forget about the chat. Hassan, where are you from in the world? If you're still there, say hi and yeah, let's chat. Hassan. Let's guess where Hassan is from. Anyone want to guess? So this is the OpenStreetMaps. This is like mapping software that a lot of maps, like Apple Maps, for like a lot of them, Google Maps, Apple Maps, they start to have their own stuff, but a lot of stuff is based on OpenStreetMaps. So the cool thing about this is like you get this kind of information. So 12 years ago, Azka Havusa actually added this information. So said this is a monument right here, historic monument. Updated this and said, hey, this is here. So okay, so this is the actual building. So let's just take a quick pause on this and like let's go get some information about where we're working. So this is the building that we see in the actual. So there. Hey, so look, this is kind of cool. So I'm just saving this image as a reference. I don't know if we can get to like a full screen of that, but there you can kind of see, you know, this thing and then the gap between there and this. So let's see what this actual, so there's our actual building. So is a monument museum to the National Indonesian Press. Okay. 1978, 20 years after it's proposed, it's located in Surakarta. That's where we are. So what I love about this kind of game and GeoGuessr in general is like in a million years, I would never even like look at this museum or know about it or care about it. But now it's like, hey, this is going to be, when I'm done this scene, to make me want to go here, even if it is a monument to a national press, which sounds super boring. Ministry of Communication Informatics, Old Society Building, 1918. National Press is a collection of over a million newspapers and magazines. That's a lot. So under construction in 1918 under the orders of Good Luck Mangkunegara the Seventh, Prince of the Mangkunagaran Palace. Cool. So that was actually like a original, like, political building. Okay, so that's the monument, but that doesn't, I don't know if we're gonna get this actual, I don't know if we're gonna get this thing. Okay, so this is actually this is actually kind of fun that you can update this. So actually, I'll show you guys something on the stream. I've never done this before, but I might do it right now. So I might actually update OpenStreetMaps in real time with this information if I can kind of verify that this is right. So the problem is, so there's someone driving by it. Definitely be a cool little night scene. There's some photos of it. There's the video. Here's our street view. You know, so we're gonna go, oh, this is gonna be annoying. That is gonna be annoying. So again, these, you know, it's hard to say with these things, like this could just be a part of, you know, this building, and because it's inside of a roundabout, like I can't even imagine that there's like a plaque or anything for this thing. So it could just be considered part of that building, right? Like, you know, if you are down this road and you're looking at it, it's kind of like a, right? So they kind of lined it up with the top and everything. I think really that's what it is. It's not its own thing that I can see. So what I was going to say is, if when I went on here and I went into Google Street View or Google Maps and I saw that it said this thing. So let's see what that actually is. I'm just curious what that translates to. Indonesia, sorry, Google Translate. Okay, so it's the Negasis intersection. So I don't know, you can do this if I want. So it's not actually that. So if I wanted to say, hey, no, it's actually not. So I'll just log into my Street View account. So, you know, I can technically go in here and I can say, you know, see how that's named the same as this? So, you know, if I want this to be, it's hard. I don't think I should do it, because if this is saying this is like an intersection, right? So Google Maps is saying this is just an intersection. And then this is the actual monument. Is that monument? Whatever. I think it's named the same, so I think it doesn't hurt to change it. So just to show you how this works. So if I want to actually make a change, where is the actual request? I forget now. Okay, so I'm not going to do it. It's nice to like change it, but it's like, hey, like I'm not from Indonesia. I don't know. I'm just looking on Google. If you're there and you saw something, you're like, okay, it's that. It's kind of both. I think it's probably part of this museum, but it's also, you know, just the intersection. So, but if I wanted to, I could go in and I can actually say like, hey, it's this. I could put in whatever I wanted. I could put a tag or, you know, any information. I could relate it to another, like to this building. There's a bunch of stuff I can do. I hit submit. It's like Wikipedia. Someone can review it, but basically it gets updated. So in real time, in like any maps that use OpenStreetMap, that eventually will update. So if you're on your phone and you're, you know, on your street map, not Google probably, but other ones, it'll actually update on the map. It's very cool. I won't do it, but that's how you would do it. The point of all that was to say that essentially this monument we're going to model. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to probably model it from this image. I'm going to not do these things at the beginning. I'm just going to model this, and then the rest of it is very symmetrical. So basically I'm just going to take this and I'm going to bring my 3D cursor to the middle, and then I'm going to add, I'll start with a cube, right? So you can see that's the cube right in the middle. And this is again eyeball, but we're going to basically just do this little miniature part. So you kind of look at this thing. You know, and you can always adjust the size. We're going to say, okay, like let's say it's probably pretty small, that little part. Okay. And then I would say, okay, actually, I'm going to try this. I've never done this before. I've only seen it, and I don't know 100% how this will work. Basically, what I'm trying to do is turn this into a circle. I think if I... Okay, there's a way to do it, but I think... What is the way to convert that to a circle? So this kind of works if you just subdivide it, but then the issue is you don't get the square at the bottom. Could just do the square and then drop a circle, 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 circle up to here, and then inset that. But I gotta remember how to do that, because I know it's possible to kind of flip between a circle and...
Right, so let me show you how to create.
probably gonna be bad.
Go into edit mode. Subdivide with 3. While in edit mode, press Shift A, create a circle, has 16 vertices. Press G, Z, move up. Select the edges of the square. When you have all the edges selected, press Shift, Alt, and then press on the circle. Then you press Ctrl E, bridge edge loops, and then you're done.
Oh, no
You
kidding.
can also add a subdivision surface modifier, make it more smooth.
That's really interesting. Okay, I like that. I've never seen that technique, the way that they just described that, but it makes sense. Let me see if I can do it. So what did he do? So he took this. So I don't know if I would do it from here. So basically what he did was he subdivided it to what, like that. And then he went, where did he do that circle? Oh, why I closed that.
3. While in edit mode, press Shift A, create a circle.
Oh, so he actually creates it. So he has, I assume it has it all selected.
Has 16 vertices.
So I think what he's doing, I think he's matching the vertices of that with that. So let me just try this to see if it works. I think I might have messed something up. So I think what he was trying to do is have the exact amount. Right, so if you have the exact amount up here, as you do down here, something went wrong when that. There we go. See if this works. Maybe not.
Press G, Z, move up. Select the edges of the square. When you have all the edges selected, press Shift, Alt, and then press on the circle. Then you press Ctrl E, bridge edge loops. Bridge edge loops.
Okay, so there's actually that many. It didn't work. Interesting. So yeah, there you go. Kind of did there.
And then you're done. You can also add a subdivision surface modifier, make it more. You can also add a Control E Alt and then press on the circle. Then when you have all the edges selected, press Shift Alt and then press on the circle. Then you press Control E Bridge Edge Loops and then you're done. You can also add a subdivision surface.
It was really interesting. I don't know if it necessarily works or what I was trying to do, but it is an interesting like little technique that was done there. I don't know if it makes a ton of sense. Let me just try it again. Okay, here we go. So the question is, can you take this here, right? So can you take this up here? And can you subdivide it that many times? Can you create a circle, 16, bring it up, bring it in, select the edges, I don't know why it's trying to do that. The edges here. You know, just to sort of, it's just that way that that's sort of going, but likely, you know, if you kind of have it something like that, and then, you know, sort of just that transition between them. I don't know if, again, if it's super useful. And then he was saying, if we flip this over, turn off that, subdivision. It certainly doesn't look like anything we did there is good. Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. Okay. I think we're just going to do it in separate sections. I can't really think of why this would help me. I have a tendency to try to figure out in my head the right way to do something, when oftentimes like it's just not practical. You know, so again, especially with this, like we're not selling an asset. We're not, you know, it doesn't have to get that crazy, right? So we just want something kind of like coming up like this, and then, you know, this in, and then fill, inset, probably a little bit, slide it down, inset a little bit more, you know, to wherever is going on in the middle, bring it down, inset all the way, you know, to something like this, extrude up, you know, maybe a little bit of lip here. It's hard to tell. Looks like we'll just add a little bit of detail, kind of extrude this in, extrude this up, and then extrude another one up. You know, kind of bring this in a little bit. Another cut here, squeeze it in, inset, right? That's sort of that next one. And then extrude up, inset, extrude up. And then this is the square, right? So we'll just say that that is a separate part. Add another mesh, cube, bring it up to this size, kind of have it the same line here. Set it just below here. Inset maybe a little bit, extrude up, bring this in. I think then we could probably assume, look at this thing from a different angle. Yeah, inset again. Extrude up. You know, just like this. And then we'll extrude this one up a bit. Actually, it looks like it may go in. Out. Up. In. Up. This one goes further out even than that. Maybe probably align with this. And then we're just going to step it up. Sort of out a little bit. Extrude up. And up. Just kind of getting a little bit of a pattern on here. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then something like this. And then I would say inset, pretty far, extrude up, scale in for kind of that slope. And then again, let's just do another one. Add a circle, bring this all the way up to the top, scale this in, get that right. Do that. Bring this one up. And then I don't know what to do with this thing at the top. But okay, so just kind of ballparking it, right? Just the key is, you know, just high level, does it look reasonable from our view? Lower this down. This is definitely too... right? That's that middle part. It's not bad. This is probably a little bit, I would say, this probably needs to be a little bit more shallow. We'll add some, you know, detail to this in a second. And then we probably can bring the whole thing down a bit. It's hard to say. I say pretty good. I mean, this is so easy to adjust after the fact. So we'll just give it a bit of a shade smooth right now. We'll add subdivision and kind of clean this thing up after, but I just want to kind of get the placement right. It's in the dead center of this scene. And then for these things, I'm going to do is I take a quick break. I'm going to make these as a little array. And then also have to do something about these little Buddha statues. So I don't know. Maybe I'll try like a 3D model generator from an image for these. It'd be kind of fun. Because obviously I'm not going to model that. I could go look for an asset online that's like that. But it'd be kind of fun to see if I could get a picture of that and just see if I could generate like a 3D model with an AI image generator for these. But that's not a huge thing. I didn't even notice that, honestly, when I first was in this scene. So I'm not really even sure. I mean, yeah, you can barely even see them from this location. So I'm going to take a quick break. I think we're not going to go too much later tonight, but I think I'll come back and maybe work on a few more things, and then, you know, maybe another half an hour, and then we'll call it a stream. So, all right, give me a 5-minute break, and I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, I'm back. It was brought to my attention that I had this window over my screen the entire time. I'm so useless. Okay, anyway, here's where we're at. So we've got this basic model here in the beginning. In the middle, it's probably not perfect, but it's a starting point. The road's not level. We'll do that probably next. And then, you know, we've got kind of all the buildings in the background. They're not perfect, but it gives you kind of an idea. What I'm going to do is just do a little cleanup here. So give me a second. Materials. Drop that guy on here. That's not what I wanted to do at all. This one here. And then I'm just setting up, it's called the material override. So I have this like clay material. And that just does this, right? It just gives us clay for everything, which just kind of like makes it a little bit easier to visualize. Make sure the shadows look good. Kind of make sure everything looks okay. You know, this background building, again, I think like the key here is that we'll have some kind of detail, and then it's all going to be hidden behind the trees. This one, I'm not for sure yet. There's obviously not much detail there, but we're going to have to do something to this, but the little as possible. Okay, I think the next obvious thing to me is the roads. Let me just check my list. So let's see that. Oh yes, I have the signage. I guess I could do that really quick. It's a pretty quick win. So I probably have a ton of street signs. Let me just check that first. I just realized this is kind of I might as well just grab one of these signs here I've got. You can't really see this. But it's just a circular sign, so I'll just bring that in. So there it is. And I don't know why it came in like that. But that looks fairly decent. I say the perspective, something is slightly off here with the perspective, but I don't think it's worth stressing out about quite yet. So at this point, I'm just going to kind of guess. I can just take the bottom of here. It's such a cool thing about 3D. It's so easy to extend, change things. And then you can see here, there's just like a really simple, you know, like a little simple stand, which we'll just sort of drop in. And we'll say here, I'll just subdivide it, extrude that up. There you go. So we got something. Okay. What else we got? So that's the sign. Placeholders for all plants, trees. You know what? Actually, I'm going to skip it because I said I didn't actually finish this sign. So I think we should just do that. Let me get the music back and go. We need to switch up the music. I need a little pick me up. Let's get a playlist. Where's the playlist? Is there not like a... Is that classical? No. No. This might work. I'm going to give a little bit of volume for this. All right, let's go. Let's try to get this thing figured out. How would you make these things? So we want to do an array. How would you do the shape? Let's try a curve. Let's try a curve. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I'm just gonna isolate this whole thing. Okay. And we are gonna add a curve. Okay. So the idea, which could turn out to be a complete disaster, is to kind of mimic what's going on here. So I'm sure there's some type of spiral modifier in Blender that I'm not thinking about right now, but I think this is going to do the trick. Just something kind of simple. So let's say that looks pretty decent. Not perfect. So much better for stream. Okay, don't let me waste too much time. Okay, so now we have this thing which I somehow messed up but I should be able to fix that. Oh, I can't move these. Okay, there we go. Cool. So now we've got a curve. So now we go down to the curve and we go to geometry. And you can extrude it, right? This way. We can also do the depth. I don't think I want the depth, but I think I just want to do is the extrude to get the side view right. And then I'll extrude it once I do. So, you know, kind of just get the profile of. So actually kind of with this one, you almost want to subdivide this, right? And get, can you do, and then Alt S? Yeah. Maybe I just have to kind of bring it in. Again, it's, you know, it's okay. It's interesting just seeing it here. It's probably not too bad. The hard part is kind of getting it to collapse. In on itself, you know. I've learned to love to work with curves because of like the way you can actually, if I actually added a bunch of points, you can really smooth them, which is really actually, you know, very useful. Still figuring it out, I would say, you know, but it's definitely kind of a fun way to work, because you'll see once I kind of get this looking not too crazy, again, that whole part of it kind of just collapsing in on itself. I'm not quite sure how to get that right. Okay. Anyway, I think you get the idea. I think it's going to work. I don't know. The scale looks a little bit off from this angle. It looks like kind of messed up. But once we add the thickness, we're going to see. So let's just add the thickness to this and just see what it looks like. So I don't think it's not what I want to do. I'm just kind of testing this. Just going to see if I duplicate it and then I convert it to a mesh. That's probably not what we want. This is very messy what I did, and I'm just trying to think through it. Obviously, I don't want this. Okay, just an alternative idea. It's definitely so much easier to work with the curves. But honestly, I'm not really sure what the right way to convert that is. I'm almost thinking that instead of you trying to figure that out, it might be easier for me to just do a really messy curve, just because it's not like, even if you look at the actual thing, it's not like a perfect, you know? So if it's not perfect already, something about this bothers me to do it this way though. It reminds me of that what is that, like a Halloween movie? It looks hilarious. It looks like a child. Maybe I shouldn't, what is the causing? This doesn't look any better. You just have so much more control over the curve. Something here is messed up though. I'm trying to remember what's causing the resolution. mean, this is just like a little bit easier to work with. Obviously, all this is... Oh, what did get messed up here? This gets really hard to sort out. Yeah, that's, I think the problem is that's really the issue. Is the overlap. What's causing that? Oh, I see. It's not too bad. I mean, again, I can fix this up, but for the most part, this is going to kind of do the trick. And I can always just go back to these curves, right? And I don't need this one. So this is the, so I have to clean all this up in a second. So let's just try something here. So again, so we want to just bring this one kind of in line with that. And then we've got 4 of them. So let's try an array modifier. And let's say object offset. A better way to do this is cursor to selected, add an empty, make empty, and then I think we can just rotate. We want this to rotate 90, and then we want the count to be 4. So generally that did pretty well. What was off about it? Where's the original? Probably just the way it is. That's kind of lined up. I'm not actually sure what that is. It's not the origin. The fact this is not centered, it This is centered on. Scale should be fine. Huh. I'm not going to stress about this because this thing doesn't look particularly perfect. But the nice thing about this is, you know, if we want to scale it down, move it up, and kind of get it right based on where the height of that's going to be and all this stuff. So I say good enough for now. We put the grass up here. We're going to bring the slope up of this. I think this is probably going to be fine just for the moment. So we're going to end up taking this. Bringing it up probably to there. As you can see, it kind of has a curvature to it. So that looks pretty good. Okay, I think this is at least to start. This feels okay. I still got to figure out what this thing is at the top. It's so weird, right? It's like it's probably some. Oh, it's like it looks like it's an ink. Yeah, it's an ink. Oh, interesting. It's an ink. One of these days I'll get the word out. It's an ink tip, like a pen tip. Huh. Yeah, it's just a pen tip. That's cool. I don't want to do that right now because I got to think of. I'm thinking I might do like a little AI thing for these guys. Just for maybe placeholders though, I should do. Let's add a cube. Bring it out here. You know, kind of in the middle of this. Maybe add just like a tiny bit of detail to it. And then you can do the same array for objects offset. You should be able to just add that empty. It should work. It mostly worked. There we go. So I just don't quite know what that is. I know there's a thing. I don't know if it's maybe setting location. There's something to this. I can't remember what the deal is. I wonder if it's apply location. Let's just try it. Yeah, kind of. But then that comes down to that issue with this this thing not being, you know, exactly 90. Oh, right, and then if that's I'm gonna have to clean this up. feel like it has something to do with the location. And honestly, I just can't remember what the setup is here that I'm missing. Right, there's the rotation. You know, it's controlling. There's definitely something. What is the process for that? Oh, okay, interesting. Maybe that's all it was. That's all it was. I just had that extra offset set up. So even for this one and these things, it was this. So this empty really is 90 degrees, yeah. And then it's basically I probably ended up moving it, and I shouldn't have. Yeah. I don't know what the deal with this one is. But anyway, this one's fine. Okay. So there you go. We've got at least something pretty close to and there's 4 of these things. It's really interesting though, just to get like where the first location is. Anyway. Could have just placed them too, to be honest. Okay, so those are like the little platforms. Yeah, see, you change one, it's gonna mess up everything else. But anyway, at least we got them in here. Okay, so we've got our little platforms in. Let's get our view back. Okay, so obviously location is off. This is gonna probably end up driving me nuts. Let's just apply this. Sometimes you kind of use this stuff, and I think just having a little bit more control like that is probably better. Okay, so those things are in. That's in. Okay, let's consider that done. I think I'm going to do the vehicles first. So let's just get the main vehicle in here. So let's see what we've got for mopeds. I always forget we have all these things too, which might be useful. We have also street signs. So some of these signs here, like that arrow might even, yeah, that arrow's here. Basically that's it, but we can, okay, so we got those. We're looking for a moped, right? I'd say that's gotta be pretty close to that. It's pretty good. I'd feel pretty close. I mean, it's definitely not that guy. And I don't think it's that. I think it's just pretty close. Okay, so let's see if we, again, scale. So this is where you kind of really get a good feel for the scale side of it, because like we know that motorcycle is correct, right? And now when you place it there, you know, you see this may be a little long. It's like not perfect, but it's not too bad. But you definitely see that the road problem. So before we adjust this thing, let's get the road flattened. So we're just going to subdivide this a bunch of times. And then essentially what we're going to do is just grab kind of this area. And I'm just going to see what happens if just think about what happened here. So we flattened out the road perfectly. But obviously we So this is probably fine. So if I do something like that, just gonna just flatten out the main road area, and then, you know, we'll bring up the ground to the, you know, kind of around it, because there's in it would probably be a sidewalk and stuff anyway. But I'd rather kind of now bring, you know, the road up to, you know, even if you kind of bring this up to the bottom of the building, I think makes a lot more sense than keep the road kind of flat, you know? Right. Yeah, that works, right? Stays kind of consistent with everything. And now we've got a flat situation here. And now we just got to go grab this guy, bring it up. To wherever we think that's going to be. This guy is back up again. And now our moped can basically come to the ground. And now we get a feel for scale. It's not bad. At this point, it'll probably make more sense to just kind of bring music got a little nutty. What's I should be playing regional music is what I should be doing. It's pretty good though. I'm just saying I can just kind of bring this down now, right? This is not looking too bad. I mean, definitely the perspective is a little bit messed up here. But now I realize something that
bien cabrón pa' que sepa. Si no respetas se te pesta. Pa' todo lo que me resta. Dale mami, dale vuelta que esta puta a ti te cela. Mami, yo te doy como escopeta. Dile a todas esas putas que tú matas como una flecha. Puerto Rico, mami, vamos pa' la vuelta. Anda con mi yarde, ande con mi blon. Dile a tu corillo que los míos sí que son. Ando con mi mascana y el escuadrón. Cuidado que no te busquen un bofetón. Matando en la liga con su estilo criminal. Baila mami sin parar.
So just from like a pure camera perspective, like this doesn't look crazy. It's just everything looks a little bit small. Just across the board. Like this is fine. This feels a bit small, which is fixable, but the bike seems small, and I don't know if I don't want to change generally the scale of the bike because the scale of the bike is accurate. If anything, this thing is too big. This just feels, but that is a pure, is the camera, it's either the camera, you know, like it's not, and the camera's got to be able to cover at least that. You can't go too much more. I can slide a little bit. It can't be much more than that. It still doesn't all, it's still not too bad. That kind of like an SUV. Good exhibition kind of thing. Realize that the road yeah, everything is still a little bit, everything is a little bit small. But I don't know if that's maybe this being too, you know? This is the kind of the tough part. You either have to trust the data, you know, like trust the street view, you know, and all that stuff, so that there we go, something soothing. Yeah, you know, you either have to trust that the dimensions are kind of right and then the perspective is going to line up, or you kind of have to fake it, right? You know, because I can easily say, oh, let's just make this car bigger. Okay, well now we have a bigger car, right? Okay, let's make this bigger. It's like now we have a bigger this. And then, you know, we can start to go through one at a time, making changes to things until it lines up. It's not authentic, trying to be too close to what it actually is, but it's tricky because you don't know the exact dimensions of a lot of these things. So I tend to be a purist with this stuff, and I'll, in my brain, okay, let's get it, exactly right. But, maybe that's not the best. Okay, let's not go too crazy. I think we've got something that's looking pretty decent here. And then we're going to kind of, we'll adjust this car a little bit. It's probably going off like in that direction. Okay, so that's good. And then let's get a couple more mopeds. I'd say probably the same type. Actually, the better way to do that, it's going to be says we're going to want to change the color on them. So we'll do these 3 here. I think we'll do the same. 1, 2, 3. So this thing is do is line these things to the ground, flip them around, and just sort of kind of attempt to line them up. So let's just get the size of this one. So 1.1.25, we'll say. So be consistent. And then just a matter of kind of lining them up. Pretty close to just straight lined. Be facing more this way. Almost too perfect, but these two are pretty close to lined up like that. And then I think this one looks like it's turned a little bit more in. So we'll kind of roll with that, I think, once we put the people on them. What else would we need? We're kind of going for what, that view? Keep forgetting that exact view. So there's another park car, so that's just like a little hatchback. Not quite that. Maybe the Fiat. Maybe, yeah, this guy. so it's probably parked just past these guys. Probably something like that, right up against the building. Just kind of align it with the ground. It's pretty good. Now another little motorcycle there. This looks more like this kind. So we'll bring that guy in. By the way, 1.5. It's a little big, but whatever. Where was the other bike? That's not what I wanted. Looks pretty good. So many bikes and mopeds everywhere. This building is just kind of bothering me a little bit. Okay, we're getting somewhere. I think this looks pretty decent. Feels right to me. Maybe if anything, this is just sort of, you know, this could be tilted a little bit off. But these are, I shouldn't mess with this. Okay. This thing feels a little bit big. These things end up being a little lower, but we'll get that right. This thing, this is not going to work, but oh, that's what it was. Probably the geometry origin. So oh no, so it's going probably like that. you just can't see it behind the bush. Let's try that again with the... My brain can't figure this out. I think I'm just going to place them. I'll probably end up at the end wanting to do it anyway, just because... So that's not too bad. That's sort of touching the... They're probably a little far out, but... There we go. That's good enough. Okay. You know, same with platforms. We'll adjust them. Just makes it a little bit easier to kind of work with these things so they're in the right spot. Okay, I need to organize this, but I feel like I've got, you know, I'm going to have to adjust this a little bit just to make the, you know, so you can see kind of how it does kind of like it. I mean, truthfully, it'd have kind of a slightly inward slope in here, tilting slightly down, right? And then, you know, Right. But then, you throw everything off as soon as you start doing that. So let's just not, let's relax on that. Okay. Honestly, the trees, like, I don't know. That looks like the tree there. Yeah, it looks like it. Just seeing if I have these anywhere. No. It's gonna be on this name. All right, let's just see what we have that looks like it. It's going to be probably like a deciduous tree. It's just a big... I kind of want to use this like speed tree thing. This maybe is pretty close. Do you know what? That's what I might do. I might leave this because I've been looking at this... it was a program, I'm trying to remember the name of it, where it basically went, like, there was a business that they stopped doing. They basically stopped doing like a business model and they open sourced the software, and it was basically a tree generator. And it was pretty detailed. I'm wondering if I can actually get a pretty accurate representation of this tree. I think it'd be probably worth it just because it's pretty prominent. It's a pretty prominent tree in this scene, and even though I'm looking at these and I'm going, hey, this might work, it's like, it's pretty big with the branch in the middle. So I think it'll be fairly obvious if it doesn't look very close to this tree. You know, I've already spotted quite a few of these that I'm like, this looks close, but you know, I don't know. You know, that was kind of like the first one. This is where like the satellite data can be really useful. So if you turn off the override, so now you can kind of see like that tree doesn't really work because it just doesn't have enough, like it doesn't have enough thickness to the branches and stuff. But to show you what I was talking about, you probably can see this tree on the map. Right, so you can see, you know, here's our overpass, right? Here's our car. I mean, all this feels good, and there's our tree. So you can even get, you know, pretty close. Obviously, you don't know height, but there you go. But I just would want a tree that has more, maybe that. But then, you know, the thing is not right. It's a big tree trunk. Okay, I think I'd try to figure out what those trees are before I do anything. Okay, so where are we? Oh, that's not what I wanted. I haven't even saved once. That's beautiful. Love this material override, by the way. It's just so neat to just like look at, just like this, just the scene with, you know, the clay and everything. So now you have a material like this, you know, and you can do kind of anything with it. You know, just like a pure chrome. Metallic. Just kind of neat. See through. A subsurface on it. I'll make it have a little bit of transmission. Clear coats. It's pretty neat. Okay. So that's where we're at. I feel like probably the best thing for me to do right now would be leave this here. I think the vehicles is done for the most part. There might be a few more. Definitely have to add people to the mopeds, which I can do. I got to see which you know, we'll get that right. Trees, plants, I think we're going to manually place them all. I don't know if there's any scattering. We're going to put, you know, like we can do this part pretty quickly if we really wanted. I think I should just clean this up because that's going to be the thing. I'll come back to this and it's going to be a disaster. So let me just do that. So this is going to be the curb. Call it curb FG. These are the part of the structure. I don't think we need to rename these. We're just gonna make everything part of this. Monument. So that's that right there, and we can control it. What are these curbs? I guess we should make these part of the monument too. Okay. duplicates of these? We do. It's interesting. What's this? All right, that's part of that. Okay, monument is fine. These empties, I think we don't need these anymore. What's this one? Get rid of that. This is our default cube. Okay, I think that at least gives me something to start with tomorrow. So, you know, I could do, if I wanted, I could just drop in, you know, tree, bush, but I think that just, I'm going to use the GeoScatter stuff and just place those tomorrow. This looks pretty cool with the little chrome thing. Might just take a little screenshot of this. Definitely going to add a subdivision onto this thing. Let me see if I have... Reuse these as placeholders. Okay, I'm going to finish this part and then that's it. Just going to get rid of this for a second. And I'll do is I'll just I say there's 3 trees here. 4. And then I say tree here. There's a tree here, here, tree here. I'll probably kind of fill in the scene. So even a tree here that'll be smaller. Okay, so then just to kind of bring these down, I would say. These are probably pretty fine. And then we have like a little one for bushes at all. Lots of trees. Oh, this would have been a better tree. Can we replace all these? Just curious. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Whatever. These ones are good. Okay, and then for this guy, we could drop a couple plants in. This may be kind of a pointless effort, if I'm being honest, but just gives me something to feel like I've got. Yeah, it's probably pretty pointless. You know, because then we got these all. I think let's just leave it at that. Kind of messes it up with the trees now. Okay, good enough. I'm gonna hit save. Okay, so I mean, we got basically pretty good in terms of, you know, the layout and composition, I think. What I didn't do is probably get the roads lined up, so I need to get the roads tomorrow sort of laid in there so I can get this texture. This is going to be a fun one because it's kind of just like a flat pavement texture, but getting the dirt in here will be interesting. And then we're going to try to get these kind of like marks, you know, from the tire tread sort of going. And then we're going to have to get the lines and stuff. So that'll be a challenge. But then, you know, the grass, I didn't do this little barrier. So this will have to get done. This one's going to be a bit of work. Any, you know, thoughts of doing this quickly is not going to happen. So probably in 3 hours on this one, I think it's probably going to be a 3-day, probably 3 more hours to get everything exactly in, all the objects set up, everything perfect, and then probably 3 hours of texturing. So these are all seeming around the same, like, you know, they're 10-hour projects, but yeah, it's fun to get these sort of seams. Oh, and I forgot about the foam wires. It'll come together. It's going to take a bit of time, but it'll look good when it's done. So thanks for joining. We'll call this part 1. I'll try to stream again potentially tomorrow. If not, I will post the whole results at the end. So thanks for joining.